For 2,000 years, no one dared challenge the empire that ruled the stars. Until one unknown ship appeared. Not with an army, but with a warning. They came not to conquer, but to end conquest itself. And with one shot, everything changed. This is the story of the day the galaxy was humbled by humanity. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move toward this wonderful story. Admiral Corvin Drail stood tall on the command deck of the Zephyr of Dominion, his hands clasped behind his back as he gazed down at the planet spinning quietly below. Luther IV was beautiful once, with soft blue oceans and stretches of golden land. But now smoke curled up from impact zones where Zarn orbital strikes had silenced the last lines of defense. The conquest had taken only 4 hours. Another flag raised, another world added to the endless list. His officers moved around him in well-rehearsed patterns, voices low, precise. The Zarn ascendancy had ruled the Spiral Crest sector for over 2,000 years, and Corvin had led dozens of these victories. He should have felt pride. Instead, he felt nothing at all. It had all become too easy. "Status report," Corvin said, his voice calm and firm. Commander Ciravel, his second-in-command, handed over a data tablet. "The surface resistance has been neutralized, Admiral. No losses on our side. Occupation squads are moving into position. Resource extraction will begin within the hour." Corvin nodded slightly, barely looking at the tablet. "Always the same," he muttered under his breath. "Victory without challenge." Cira tilted her head. "Sir?" "Nothing," Corvin replied. He turned toward the wide viewing screen. The stars beyond shimmered like distant candles. Somewhere he hoped there might still be something out there that could surprise him. Then, as if the universe had been listening, a soft chime echoed across the bridge. Sensor Officer Joran Vex stiffened at his console. "Admiral, I'm picking up an anomaly. Far edge of the system." Corvin's interest sparked for the first time in weeks. "Details? It appears to be a wormhole, but it's not like any formation we've cataloged before. Stable. High energy. Something's coming through." Corvin approached the sensor console, his tall frame casting a long shadow over the display. The wormhole twisted in space like a glowing whirlpool, deep purple and blue streaks stretching outward. A single ship emerged slowly from the center, dark and massive. "One ship?" Corvin said with a raised brow. "That's it?" The vessel was unlike anything they'd seen. No smooth curves or elegant fins like other civilizations favored. This ship was blocky, rugged, and carried an unmistakable sense of purpose. It wasn't designed to impress, it was built to survive. "Analysis," Corvin ordered. Joran's fingers flew across the console. "Heavy armor, unknown composition, weapon systems. Sir, this can't be correct. Power output is over 3 times that of the Zephyr." The bridge fell silent. Corvin straightened, his eyes narrowing. "Open a channel." A moment later, the screen flickered to life, and an unfamiliar face appeared. The being looked almost fragile. 2 eyes, smooth pale skin, a square jaw, and short brown hair. He wore a plain dark uniform with silver details. "This is Commander Naomi Kess of the Terran Union vessel Ironclad," the human said, her voice steady and without emotion. "We are responding to a distress signal from the Luthari government. Withdraw your forces immediately." Corvin blinked. "Terran Union? Never heard of them." He stepped forward, eyes cold. "You are trespassing in Zarn-controlled space. This system is now under the Ascendancy's protection. Turn back, or be destroyed." The human's face didn't change. "Then you leave. It's no choice." Corvin chuckled, a low and humorless sound. "You truly believe one ship can challenge the might of our fleet? We've conquered hundreds of worlds." Commander Kess responded simply. "That may explain why you're unprepared for failure." "Target the intruder," Corvin ordered. Weapon systems locked onto the Ironclad. Brilliant green disruptor beams shot through space, followed by a barrage of quantum torpedoes. The Terran ship didn't move. As the first strikes made contact, A strange shimmering field appeared around the vessel. The beams vanished into it. Not absorbed. Gone. The torpedoes exploded against the shield with fire and thunder. But when the smoke cleared, the ironclad floated unharmed. Silence fell again. They didn't take any damage, Joran whispered. Nothing. Then came the return fire. A single beam of brilliant white light lanced out from the ironclad. It struck the Zephyr directly. The bridge shook. Lights flickered. Systems failed. Alarms screamed. Shields down to 30%. Sira shouted, panic rising. That one shot nearly crippled us. Corvin gripped the railing, his jaw tight. In his entire career, he had never felt afraid. Not when charging into battle, not even when ships exploded around him. But now, standing on his wounded flagship, facing a lone unknown enemy, he felt something he had forgotten long ago. Doubt. All ships, he ordered, forcing calm into his voice. Concentrate fire. Bring it down. As his fleet began to move, surrounding the unmoved Terran vessel, Corvin could not shake the feeling that this was no ordinary battle. Something had shifted. A new player had arrived, and the rules of power in the galaxy were about to change. The command deck of the Vigilant Echo buzzed with tension as Grand Admiral Thaven Moore stared at the swirling lights of the system ahead. He had arrived with 82 ships, one of the largest battle groups assembled in over a century to reinforce Admiral Corvin Drail. The last transmission had been brief and disturbing. A single unknown ship had entered the Luther system, disabled the Zephyr of Dominion, and claimed protection over a conquered world. Moore didn't believe it at first. One ship. Impossible. The Ascendancy had faced entire coalitions of species before and crushed them easily, but as his fleet approached, his disbelief began to turn into something he wasn't used to feeling: unease. The Terran vessel still hovered in the same position, unmoved, surrounded now by a swarm of Zarn ships. It wasn't hiding. It wasn't running. It was waiting. As Moore settled into his command chair, he glanced at the tactical display. The alien ship had not changed formation or raised any further shields. It looked defenseless. He almost gave the order to fire right away, but something about the stillness of that ship, something about the calm in that human commander's voice on the recorded broadcast, made him hesitate. "Status?" he asked quietly. Captain Ari Valen, his operations chief, replied with practiced calm. "All ships in position, Grand Admiral. Weapon systems are ready, awaiting your command." Moore leaned back, fingers steepled under his chin. "Send another message, offer a chance to retreat. Maybe they'll come to their senses." The communications officer opened a channel. Moore spoke clearly. "This is Grand Admiral Thaven Moore, of the Zarn Ascendancy. You are surrounded. Stand down and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will not be tolerated." There was a pause. Then the screen lit up. The human face appeared again, Commander Naomi Kess. Her expression was as still as ever. "We will not retreat," she said. "You have 6 hours to remove your forces from this system. After that, we will take action." Moore stared at the screen, eyes narrowing. One ship, one voice, against a fleet of nearly 100 vessels. Where does that confidence come from? Kess didn't answer. The screen went black. A beat of silence passed, then another. Finally, Moore turned to Valen. "They're bluffing. Begin attack coordination. All ships fire simultaneously." Across the fleet, orders were relayed in perfect sequence. Beams of light and energy gathered at the muzzles of Zarn weapons. Disruptors, torpedoes, plasma bursts, graviton lances, all charged and ready. At Moore's command, a storm of fire erupted in space. The ironclad vanished inside the brightness of the attack. For a moment, the bridge of the Vigilant Echo erupted with activity and excitement. Readouts spiked. Energy surged. Sensors screamed. With data. It looked as if the ship had finally fallen. Then the light dimmed and the ironclad was still there. Not damaged. Not moved. Simply waiting. Before anyone could speak, a white pulse flashed from the Terran ship. It expanded in a perfect sphere, passing silently through the Zarn ships. No explosions, no fire, just silence. And then chaos. Bridge lights dimmed. Consoles went dark. Engines failed. Weapons powered down. Alarms buzzed weakly, then stopped. All together. The vigilant Echo and every ship in the fleet floated helplessly in space. Systems down. Captain Valen shouted. Weapons, shields, propulsion, nothing's responding. Moore stood slowly. His voice was barely a whisper. What just happened? The communications console blinked, and the screen came alive. Commander Kess appeared once more. Grand Admiral, she said evenly, we have temporarily disabled your fleet. Your systems will be restored in 6 hours. Use that time to withdraw. Moore clenched his fists. You expect us to surrender because of one demonstration? Kess tilted her head slightly. It wasn't a demonstration. It was a courtesy. The screen went dark again. On the bridge, no one moved. The room was still, heavy with shock. Even the hum of the engines, always there in the background, was gone. Moore looked out at his mighty fleet, now drifting in silence, and for the first time in his long career he didn't know what to do. Back on the Zarn capital world of Theraxis, the High Council convened an emergency session. Grand Chancellor Rathar sat at the head of the long black table, his wrinkled hands gripping the edge. A single human ship has humiliated one of our most powerful fleets, he said, voice tight with fury. Explain this to me. The room was filled with senior commanders and scientists, all of them speaking at once, none with clear answers. Grand Admiral Moore, now back from the front lines, stood before them, his expression grim. This is not just new technology. It's not just stronger weapons, this is something else. The Terrans did not come to fight. They came to end something. Rathar scoffed. End what? Our dominance, Moore said softly. They've shown us what they're capable of, and they haven't even started fighting. A decision was made. A stealth ship, the Whispering Gale, was ordered to follow the Ironclad. If the Terrans could not be defeated outright, then they had to be understood. The Zarn needed to know where they came from and what else they might bring. As Moore watched the Terran ship vanish through its wormhole, one thought stayed with him. This was no longer a matter of victory. This was a question of survival, and the answer, whatever it was, would change the fate of the galaxy. Captain Venusaul sat quietly on the bridge of the Whispering Gale, her golden eyes fixed on the swirling lights ahead. The wormhole had just closed behind them, and for a few seconds the ship drifted in silence. The crew was tense even though they were trained for stealth missions like this. But this wasn't just any operation. They were following a Terran battleship, the Ironclad, a ship that had crippled an entire Zarn fleet without destroying a single vessel. It had appeared out of nowhere, disabled the proud vigilant Echo and its companions, and vanished just as easily. And now Vena and her crew were deep in unknown space, hoping to discover what the Terrans were hiding. The view screen flickered back to life, revealing something no one expected. A massive space station hovered just ahead, surrounded by a network of satellites, platforms, and dozens of ships. Some resembled the Ironclad, but others were larger, darker, stranger. The station itself dwarfed anything the Zarn had ever built. Its design was practical yet beautiful in its complexity. Layers of defense communication arrays and hangars spun slowly in orbit around a glowing planet. "Where are we?" whispered Lieutenant Dre, the ship's navigator. Vena didn't answer right away. She was too focused on what she saw. The planet below pulsed with energy. Readings across the board were off the charts. Artificial structures covered much of the surface, and orbital habitats surrounded the planet like a metallic halo. The sensors blinked rapidly, trying to make sense of the data. "Scan the system," Vena ordered. "Everything. I want population, estimates, energy signatures, military assets, the works." Her science officer, Raylin, was already working. A few moments later, she looked up, her face pale. "Captain, our estimates suggest over 12 billion individuals live on the planet, another 3 billion in orbit. That couldn't be right. The Zarn ascendancy spanned hundreds of worlds, and their total population didn't even reach 20 billion. One world, one system, matching nearly their entire empire in scale. "They're not just strong," Vena murmured. "They're everywhere," Stealth Officer Halor spoke up. "Captain, our phase field is holding, but the Terran sensors are different. I think they're detecting distortions in the field." "Are they tracking us?" "Not yet, but I don't think we're truly hidden." Just as he said it, the ship shuddered gently. A blue glow appeared around the hull, some kind of containment field. They were caught. "Phase field failing," Halor confirmed. "We're fully visible." There was no time to react. The comm system chimed softly, and a familiar face appeared on the screen. Commander Naomi Kess, calm as ever, looked directly into the camera. "Captain Vena Sol, welcome to Sol System. We've been expecting you." The bridge of the whispering, Gale was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. They had been followed, perhaps even led here. Vena straightened in her chair. "How did you detect us?" "Your phase technology is clever," Kess said, "but it creates small gravitational ripples. Our sensors noticed them as soon as you entered our space. Then why allow us to follow you?" "Because your leaders needed proof. And now, you have it." The screen split into several smaller windows, showing every corner of the Terran system. Gigantic shipyards floated like islands in the void, constructing vessels larger than anything the Zarn had ever imagined. Defense platforms, armed and alert, orbited the planet like silent guardians, and beyond them, something stranger still. Dozens of wormhole gates, each glowing and active, leading to unknown regions of the galaxy. "This is only one of our homeworlds," Kess continued. "We've spread far beyond this system. What you see here is just a fraction of the Terran Federation." Vena's breath caught in her throat. For the first time in her career, she felt small. "You will be allowed to return to your space," Kess said. "But the coordinates to this system will be erased from your navigation. Consider this a show of trust and power." Vena forced herself to speak. "And what message should I deliver?" Kess didn't hesitate. "The Terran Federation is expanding into this sector. We are not here to conquer, but we will no longer allow the subjugation of peaceful worlds. The era of domination is over." The message was clear. The Zarn ascendancy was no longer alone at the top. There was a force out there that matched and perhaps surpassed them in every way. As the Whispering Gale was escorted out of Terran space by a squadron of sleek, silent vessels, Vena sat quietly. She was no longer thinking like a scout. She was thinking like a witness. What she had seen today would change the course of history. The question wasn't whether the Zarn would respond, but how. And in that quiet moment, drifting through the void, she felt a cold truth settle over her. The stars no longer belonged to the Zarn. They were shared now, with a species who had stayed hidden for so long, only to rise when it mattered most. The council chamber on the Zarn homeworld of Kereth had never been this quiet. Grand Chancellor Lurek stood at the center, his tall frame stiff, his expression strained. Around him, the most powerful leaders of the Zarn ascendancy sat in a circle of high-backed chairs, staring silently at the glowing image in the center of the room. It was a live transmission, beamed directly from space just above their own planet. And what it showed had shaken the foundation of their entire empire. Terran ships, dozens of them, hovered calmly in Zarn core space, not a single shot fired. They had appeared without warning, bypassing all known defenses. No wormholes, no energy spikes, just silence, then arrival. It was a kind of travel no one in the Empire had ever seen before. The lead ship, larger than anything the Zarn had ever built, sat at the head of the fleet like a watchful eye. Its name, Resolute, was displayed in pale white across the hull. Its captain had requested direct communication with the Zarn Council. No threats, no demands. Just a conversation. And now, as the glowing image shifted, a new face appeared. She was older than the previous Terran commanders, her silver hair tied back, her uniform decorated with strange metals. Her voice was steady and calm. "I am Grand Admiral Elise Wren of the Terran Federation. We do not come in violence, but we do come with purpose. The time of unchecked conquest in this sector is over. The council didn't respond at first. Then Chancellor Lurek leaned forward, his voice quiet but sharp. You've invaded our core systems. You call it peace, but it looks like control. Admiral Wren's expression didn't change. If we wanted control, Chancellor, we would not be speaking right now. Your fleets would already be gone. We are not here to rule you. We are here to offer a path forward. Lurek looked around at the council. Half of them looked furious. The other half looked frightened. No one looked confident. What is it you want? He asked finally. A treaty, Wren said. One that recognizes the rights of all species in this sector to self-govern. One that stops forced occupation, ends resource stripping, and begins cooperation. A murmur spread through the chamber. It was unthinkable. The Zarn had ruled for over 2,000 years. Their strength was their pride. Surrendering that strength felt like death. Councillor Toven, a military elder with deep red skin and a voice like thunder, stood. You ask us to give up everything we have built. What reason do we have to believe you will not replace our rule with your own? Wren responded with a slight nod. A fair question. You have seen what we can do. You've seen us disable fleets without firing a fatal shot. You followed us to our home and watched as we let you leave. If we wanted to rule you, we would have, but we didn't. We chose restraint. Lurek narrowed his eyes. And if we refuse? The Admiral paused. Then we will act to protect the worlds under your control. Not because we want war, but because we cannot stand by while others suffer. The chamber grew tense. No one dared speak. Then, from the side of the room, a voice rose that no one expected. High Scholar Reyna, one of the oldest members of the council, and often silent during political matters, spoke in a calm, tired voice. We have always believed we were alone at the top. That power made us right. But perhaps now we see the truth. We have simply been alone because others chose not to rise, until now. Tovan turned to her. You would have us bend the knee? No, Reyna said. I would have us survive. Lurek exhaled slowly. He looked at the screen again, at the calm human face staring back. If we agree to speak further, if we consider this treaty, what assurance do we have that you will not change the terms tomorrow? Wren gave a thin smile. Then you will walk away, but you will have the choice. And you will have time. Lurek turned back to the council. We will send a delegation, he said, his voice low. We will listen. Admiral Wren gave a respectful nod. That is all we ask. The transmission ended. The chamber remained silent. Outside the great tower, the sky of Kareth was clear and quiet. The Terran ships hung there, silent and still, not moving an inch. But the people on the surface knew everything had changed. In the days that followed, celebrations erupted on once-occupied worlds. From Luther IV to Meraxis Prime, people lit fires in the streets, waved new banners, and sang old songs of freedom. Word spread quickly, about the humans, about the fleet that had come not to conquer but to protect, about the moment the great Zarn Empire stopped moving forward and started looking inward. And somewhere, deep in uncharted space, far from the watchful eyes of the Ascendancy or the Federation, another presence stirred in the darkness, an old species, long silent, now paying close attention. For peace was powerful, but peace always left behind the question of who would challenge it. Next.